Villain versus villain fights in anime are not that common, but they are some of the most exciting battles you can experience. There is something special about a bad guy fighting another bad guy, especially if it's the previous villain against the next powerful foe. Seeing two huge powerhouses with immense egos clashing will never get old. It also feels reassuring. If you're rooting for the protagonists, considering the villains will likely weaken each other. Sometimes the previous threat will also help the main characters defeat the new one. Of course, this is just as exciting. However, it also uncovers a deep layer of these characters by clashing the two villains' philosophies. 8 Itachi vs. Orochimaru Naruto. Itachi vs. Orochimaru was over in an instant, but it still managed to be one of the most exciting fights. It mainly existed to showcase the immense power Itachi had, and the huge mountain Sasuke must climb to get to Itachi's level. The fight was foreshadowed early on in Naruto, right after Orochimaru is defeated by the third Hokage. After seeing Orochimaru be this terrifying inhuman creature that nearly destroyed the entire Leaf Village, we get the confirmation directly from Orochimaru that Itachi is even stronger. This planted the seed of Itachi versus Orochimaru, which eventually was showcased in a flashback. Orochimaru then returned in the fight between Sasuke and Itachi, only to be swiftly sealed away yet again. 7 Feitan vs. Zazan Hunter x Hunter. The Phantom Troop makes their return in the Chimera Ant arc, albeit briefly. They take on Zazan's squad one by one while enjoying themselves. However, the star of the show was Feitan versus Zazan. Although Zazan corners Feitan at first, that would be her biggest mistake. The fight demonstrated that Feitan was one of the strongest Phantom Troop members, as he mercilessly defeated Zazan. Everyone wanted to see how the Phantom Troop would do against the Chimera Ants, since the introduction of the Royal Guards, which made this fight all the more epic. Sei Sukuna vs. Jogo Jujutsu Kaisen. Sukuna vs. Jogo was not a fight, but a demonstration of power. Similar to Jogo's fight against Gojo, Sukuna completely destroys Jogo. Because of how absurdly strong Gojo and Sukuna are, many people forget that Jogo is one of the strongest curses we see. Jogo is a special grade curse that every sorcerer except Gojo would struggle against. Sukuna summarizes this perfectly after defeating Jogo, telling him to stand proud because he's strong. The fight itself also had some incredible feats for both Sukuna and Jogo. 5 Shigaraki vs. Redestro My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia spends the entirety of Season 5 developing its main cast of villains by pitting them against a huge organization. The entire arc consists of various villain versus villain fights, including the two main bosses fighting each other. However, Shigaraki vs. Redestro is vastly different from most other villain fights. It explores Shigaraki's backstory and pits him against a major challenge that he must overcome all by himself. This allows Shigaraki to evolve and become much stronger than he was, both mentally and physically. It's an amazing fight that does justice to both villains. 4 Vegeta vs. Zarbon Dragon Ball Z. This fight happened in the early stages of the Namek arc, back when Vegeta was still a cold-blooded killer yet to be redeemed. The Namek saga created a fascinating dynamic with the protagonists from Earth, Vegeta, and Frieza's forces clashing with each other. Throughout the arc, Vegeta unintentionally helps out our protagonists by fighting off Frieza's forces. During this time, his best fight was the rematch with Zarbon. The fight perfectly showcased Vegeta's cunning and ruthless nature as he demolished Zarbon, who was arguably even more heartless. 3 Sasuke vs. Danzo Naruto. Sasuke's fight against Danzo was set up from the moment Obito revealed the truth about Itachi. Back then, Sasuke was more of an anti-hero, but he became a fully fledged villain by the time he fights Danzo. The fight is brutal as Sasuke tries his hardest to kill Danzo by any means necessary. He even goes as far as stabbing Karin just to get Danzo. Danzo himself is a morally corrupt person who thinks he's doing the right thing. Eventually, Sasuke gets his revenge as Danzo sacrifices his life trying to take out both Sasuke and Obito. The fight is more unsettling than epic in a good way. It shows the lengths Sasuke is willing to stoop to for revenge. 2 Aizen vs. Yuach Bleach. Aizen is one of the most intimidating and iconic villains in all of anime. So seeing him take on the final boss of Bleach is certainly one of the greatest villain versus villain fights to this day. At first, Yawak tries to recruit Aizen, knowing he is a formidable opponent. That conversation alone is legendary, as we get to witness two big bosses clash with their words. Later, Aizen helps Ichigo fight against Yawak by using his Kyuka Suigetsu to deceive the almighty Quincy. Former enemies teaming up to defeat a greater foe will always be one of the most exciting tropes. When it involves villains of the caliber of Aizen, it's bound to be nothing but greatness. 1. Big Mom vs. Kaido. One Piece. Big Mom and Kaido are two of the four emperors, feared across the seas for their monstrous strength and unshakable empires. When these two titans finally clash during the Wano arc, the entire island feels the shockwaves. Their fight isn't just a physical brawl, it's a power struggle between two egomaniacal tyrants who refuse to bow to anyone. Though they end up forming a temporary alliance, their initial fight is chaotic and explosive, filled with devastating hockey attacks and displays of overwhelming power. It's one of the few times One Piece showcases a true villain versus villain moment, where neither side is sympathetic, yet their clash is hypnotic to watch. The world shakes when two emperors go head-to-head. Villain versus villain fights? Always peak anime moments. When two monsters clash, you just sit back and enjoy the destruction. These showdowns aren't just fights, they're statements. If you've got a favorite villain battle we missed, drop it in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe to Shinobi Central, and stay locked in for more anime heat. Till next time, stay sharp, Shinobi.